Okay, video number 4 in chapter 32. This is about the determinants of the aggregate supply curve. Now, when we talk about the determinants of the aggregate supply curve, we're talking about the determinants of the short-run aggregate supply curve, the upward sloping short run. So your book lists the determinants in the bottom of page 645. They are changes in input prices, which we'll talk about in a second, and changes in productivity, and also changes in what your book says, the legal institutional environment, changes in government policy is what that means. So when input prices change, what we're saying is that at the original price level, let's call it PL1 here, we were operating on AS1, and let's say that the prices, input prices have increased. It would be labor, raw materials, energy prices, those kinds of things, the production costs. If those prices increase, that means that I can produce the same level of output at a higher price level. It's going to cost me more to produce the same level of output. It was costing me this level of price. Now it's costing me this level. So I'm going to have to raise my prices to the public to cover the new costs. So that increased price level, in a sense, the aggregate supply curve has shifted up. But of course, what that looks like when we look at it on the graph here is it shifted to the left. That's what we say. Input prices increased. The aggregate supply curve shifted to the left. You can think of it as a shift upward, but again, it comes out as a shift to the left. All right. Of course, if input prices go down, we would be able to make the same old output at a lower price. And there would have to be an aggregate supply curve running through that. So if input prices go down, aggregate supply drops. We can produce the same amount at lower prices. That looks and that appears to be, and we say that it's a shift to the right. All right, so those are input prices. Productivity. Productivity means that workers are able to make more in the same amount of time, or to make a greater amount in the same amount of time. All right, they're able to make more in the same amount of time, or they're able to take less time to make the same amount. All right, so what that means is at the old price level, workers can now make more output. We're not paying them anymore, but they can make more output. So if productivity increases, aggregate supply shifts to the right. Productivity rarely goes down. Once gains have been made in productivity, it's very odd circumstances that the rate of productivity would actually decline. That would only happen if you were invaded by a foreign enemy and your factories were blown up and therefore your workers didn't have the equipment. So productivity almost never goes down. The third thing that shifts the aggregate supply curve to the right is changes in government policy. Specifically, that would be changes in business taxes, changes in subsidies that the government might be offering to companies, or government regulations are reduced and it's going to cost companies less to make their output. Or, of course, if government regulations increase, that'll cost companies more. So with a reduction of taxes or a reduction in government regulation or an addition of subsidies to businesses, aggregate supply would shift to the right. We can make more stuff at lower prices. If government taxes increase, business taxes increase, subsidies are reduced, or government regulations increase, it's going to cost us more to make that output, and AS shifts to the left. All right, one final comment on all this. When productivity increases, like I said, it almost never decreases. When input prices increase, they might decrease in the future. If they decrease, they might increase. So input prices, a short-run AS keeps shifting to the right and to the left based on input prices. But when productivity changes, that is usually a gain that is capitalized on and continues into the long run. The second thing that often happens is the stock of capital goods, the number of factories we have, the number of machines that are available, the quality of the goods that we have increases. That is going to wind up in a permanent increase in supply, and that actually shifts the long-run aggregate supply curve to the right, okay? So this, we'll call it YFE prime, can actually shift to the right. When productivity increases in the long run, the stock of capital goods increase in the long run. Those things can actually move the long run aggregate supply curve to the right also. That's important. We'll be talking about that more as the course goes on.